What up, Clay Trionaires? It's your boy, technically Clay, streaming at you from sunny St. Louis, Missouri. How is everyone doing today? I'm doing pretty good, pretty good. At first, I wasn't doing too great. We'll get into that shortly, but I'm doing good now. Since the last time you saw me, let's see. What did I do yesterday? Oh yeah, I went to my DSA event. We had like a happy hour. So I went to the happy hour, got to hang out with all my sweaty comrades, just like me. we talked about, various political theories of change and other nerdy ass fucking shit. And I loved every second of it. Honestly, getting drunk and talking with people about politics that are also interested in politics is probably, one of my favorite pastimes. Anyway, so I did that. I had a couple beers, and then I came back. I went to bed, woke up, classic. I had not like a real hangover, but just like was tired. Like I did my half day of work. Not the most productive, I'll admit, but and then me and my wife went to go get pho, which, by the way, this is like a Clay lore bit unlocked, but when I used to drink a lot more, like I used to go out to bars a lot back in the day, like in my early mid-20s. And me and my friend, we would close out bars relatively frequently, probably more often than we probably should have. And so, then the next day, though, what we would always do is we would go get pho. And it was it was this common occurrence. We would go get really drunk, go to sleep, wake up, and then we would go get pho, Vietnamese noodles. If you're not aware what pho is. And so, it was just our habit. We would just basically that morning, we're both kind of hungover. We would just sit in silence and just max out on pho, and it was great. It was great, but it was also not so great because, as you get older, that sort of lifestyle starts taking a bigger and bigger toll on you. So I no longer do that as much anymore. But anyway, to kind of relive it, I guess today, even though I only had 2 beers yesterday, we went and got pho, and it was really good, and I loved it. It was from Pho Grand, which is my favorite pho place out of all of the pho places that I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot because it's one of my favorite foods as well. So we had that. It was good. Then I came back and I took a nap for like an hour and a half, which is why I started a little bit later today. And then I prepared a little bit more. I'm trying to do some new stuff in terms of how I present the news. So I prepared a little bit more. That took me like 30 minutes maybe or so. And then now I am here with you, the viewer. Hello. Hello. So today we're going to be going over the news. The primary stories that we're going to be covering today are Iran. What's going on? Is there a deal? Is there not a deal? Is the deal good for America or is it bad for America? Or I guess bad for American imperialism or whatever. We will try to analyze all of that and come to some sort of conclusion. It is hard to come to any sort of conclusion. And also by the time I post this video, it'll probably be too late. Everything will change again. But you know what? I'm going to do my best. I'm trying to keep people informed. And so, we'll do our best to try to understand what's going on. Then I wanted to do a follow-up on a previous story that I did on the Belfast race riots. I'm going to try to dive a little bit deeper and hopefully we can maybe, I don't know, and just look into that story a little bit more. And then we got the SpaceX IPO, which was, I believe, today, or maybe it was yesterday. I can't remember. But yeah, making Elon escaping white genocide in South Africa, Musk, the world's first trillionaire. Fucking woohoo is what I have to say to that. And if you can't tell, that's ironic. That was an ironic woohoo. And then if we got time, I'm going to go over whatever else I can find. So we'll see how this goes. Like I said, I'm trying new stuff when it comes to how I present the news, how I'm going over the news. I'm trying to make it a little bit more dynamic. So I hope you all enjoy. So with all of that being said, I'm also dropping a shit ton of frames right now too. With all that being said, actually, I'm also going to record locally. Maybe I can try to upload a little bit earlier or something too. I'm just having some coffee to try to wake up a little bit more from my nap as well. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. It looks like my frames are back, at least temporarily. And we're going to start with, like I said, Iran. So let's start with this video. This one is from CNN. And so like the basic high level stuff that has happened so far since the last time, since the last time I did the news for you guys was, we were apparently, Trump was going to do strikes on Iran, but then, he came out with the classic Trump line of they have completely capitulated. They are fully on board with everything, and we are going to make a deal. So because of that, I am not going to do the strikes. Now, he's done this plenty of times before. I said I don't know. I don't know if he's going to do the strikes or not, or if he's going to continue doing strikes or not. Really not sure. So since then, there's been some information, and he's also said that they're going to sign a deal really soon or something, right? I'm still highly skeptical of that. I don't think it's going to happen. However, we're going to learn more about it today. Maybe I'll change my opinion, but in general, I think that, the two sides are just two on isometrically different like wavelengths. Like Iran wants stuff that would require America to take a big fat L, and America so far does not seem willing to do so. And maybe it'll change. Eventually it has to change, right? Eventually America will have to agree to Iran's demands. So it's really just a matter of, do we think this is the time? So yeah, and then also I think Iran has leaked some, or not leaked, but like reported on some of the terms of the deal. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll have to, hopefully they'll go into it as a part of this video. And Trump is now complaining that it's all lies. And if you've been watching this story for a while, you will be very familiar with this exact set of things that have happened. It's always this is almost always what happens. What happens is Trump finds some sort of some sort of thing that he can maybe potentially agree to, like individually. He's like, okay, maybe I can spin this as a win and we can finally get out of here. And then Iran comes out and says, here's what we're agreeing to. It's the same thing over and over again, the same 10-point memorandum of understanding that they gave at the very beginning. And then America says, that's not what's actually in it. That's not what's actually in it. And then depending on how serious it is and how close it is, all of the Zionists and all of the, neocons come out of the woodwork to all complain on Fox News about exactly to try to complain that Trump looks weak, that this is a bad deal, he shouldn't take it. And then Trump usually ends up going along with the neocons and the Zionists and not actually, agreeing to the deal. So that's kind of the history of how this has gone in the past, and kind of what I'm expecting to happen as well this time. But who knows? Maybe this will be the time. Like I said, the deal America has to accept a deal at some point. America can't do this forever. So it costs too much money. It's too unpopular. The oil supplies are getting critically low. And I always thought between June and September is probably when. Well, I originally thought June, but apparently the minimum operational capacity of our oil tank reserves and stuff, they will get down to terminally critically low at in September. So I'm guessing sometime between now and then is when maybe we will get some sort of actual deal. So anyway, let's go ahead and watch this video from CNN. Hopefully they'll give us some more insight. I got a whole bunch of other stuff pulled up on the side that I'll try to interject with some more information and details as we go. And yeah, let's just see what's going on. We got Wolf Blitzer here to guide us through.
There was a deal. President Trump is now lashing out at Iran. In a Truth Social post that appeared just a few moments ago, he called Tehran, and I'm quoting him now, dishonorable for what he's calling inaccurate descriptions of a proposed agreement. He also said they better get their act together and they better do so fast. Let's go to CNN's Kristen Holmes over at the White House. Kristen, what else is the president saying this morning? It's all very dramatic.
Yeah, and Wolf, we're going to get to what he's saying in a second, but I do want to explain how we got here and what it is that he is referring to, because we had gotten a readout of this memorandum of understanding from a diplomat who had been briefed on what was in this document, and some of the key points were this: that it would be a 60-day ceasefire that would include everything, Lebanon included, that
including Lebanon and including Gaza, I believe. I think they've expanded it now to include Gaza as well as Lebanon.
the Strait of Hormuz would be opened immediately, and that pre-war levels of traffic would begin again within 30 days, that the U.S. blockade of ports and some Iranian sanctions would all open up as part of this deal, and that it satisfies all the U.S. requirements on the nuclear issue. So that is
Okay, so I mean that's basically in line with what they originally signed on for the memorandum of understanding. The other thing I think was reparations. That doesn't seem to be, at least in this indicator here, but maybe they'll talk a little bit more, or maybe there's like a second page to this, Chiron. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna let it go a little bit further, and we'll see. And then also there was removing U.S. bases from the region as well, I believe. Oh, and the tolling system or whatever. I think that those were the main other things, but it doesn't mention anything on tolling, so I would assume that that could also be a part of it, and maybe the tolling system is a part of the reparations process. I think the last thing that they had asked for was removal of American troops from the region, which maybe this doesn't seem to mention it, at least on this Chiron either.
is what we had been reporting. Then we had Iran come out, state media, and give their version of the deal, which looks significantly different. And there are a couple of points.
Oh, I thought that was the Iran one. Okay, well, let's see what Iran says
In there that are likely to make President Trump angry. One of them, they would not commit to ceding control over the Strait of Hormuz. And the other is that frozen funds, these frozen assets that have been a point of contention for President Trump, they say, Iranian state media, and of course, keep in mind the source here, that the agreement would demand the release of $24 billion in those frozen funds.
Yeah, you have to understand, Iran definitely needs, or not needs, but definitely wants that, because specifically the release of the $24 billion of Iran's frozen funds. That's because America has hit, like in the original JCPOA, I think that was when it happened. America had promised to release like a significant portion of Iran's frozen funds, which, by the way, they are illegally frozen. You are not allowed to unilaterally impose sanctions under international law without going through the UN. So I believe that if I remember correctly, there was no actual UN agreement for America to do these. And basically, America had agreed to unfreeze all of this stuff as a part of the deal, and then decided not to do it afterwards. So America has this long history of being untrustworthy. And that's even before Donald Trump, the most untrustworthy president of all time, is now the person doing the negotiation. So I think that at the very least they want this. I had heard 12 billion before. I guess they've upped it to 24 billion of Iran's frozen funds released. I would also say that they're probably expecting that America is not going to go through with any of the other stuff I would say that they would be highly skeptical that America is actually going to release any more than what is initially released in order to get this to a conclusion. I would also probably guess that they're not even I would also probably guess that they're not even expecting America to hold up its end of the bargain when it comes to sanctions relief either, if I had to guess. So because in all honesty, America probably won't as soon as they're outside of this conflict. But okay, that's some good. That's basically exactly what I just said. What I thought that they were expecting that wasn't being explicitly said on that first Chiron. So this also seems like one of those things where they're trying. America is just leaving out certain aspects in order to make the sell to the public that it's not a that's not some sort of bad deal for America, which is a classic Trump move. He's just trying to find a way to spin victory.
So now you have President Trump reacting to this, essentially saying that the terms that Iran leaked to the fake news media have nothing to do with the terms that were agreed to in writing. What they said, including their weak, pathetic statement on having a deal, bears no relation to the truth. And with them, there is no such thing as dealing in good faith.
Their totally rebuffed drone attack last night against Indian ships leaving the Hormuz Strait. Yeah, well, Iran has been like routinely targeting ships now because they said that the strait is completely closed again. So they better get their act together fast. Yeah. Okay, let me go ahead and see. Sorry, I had another one that I wanted to. That's not it. Where was it? Oh my gosh, I lost the... Okay, 1 second. Sorry, I had something up. Okay, here's this is from Iran Observer. I'm not actually that sure about this particular channel. It's one I found recently. I tried to go find this on Mer News, where they got this information. I couldn't find it, so take all of this with a grain of salt. But this is what they're saying. They want a permanent and immediate cessation of war on all fronts, including Lebanon. By all fronts, I assume they also mean Gaza. But yeah, they're specifically calling out Lebanon because, that's the one that Israel is currently the most focused on. And so the one that they want to, make very obvious, I think, in the wording. And then America's commitment to non-interference in Iran's internal affairs, complete lifting of the naval blockade. That was what they had mentioned, that part in what we just saw from CNN. America's commitment to withdrawing its forces from around Iran. That was why I talked about removing American military service members from around the region and American bases from around the region. Reopening the Strait of Hormuz with Iranian arrangements. That's Iran continuing with its fee system. Suspension of oil and gas sanctions on the sale of oil and full access for Iran to its financial resources. So completely lifting all of the frozen assets or the freezes on the assets and undoing all of the sanctioning of their oil. The United States and its allies to present a reconstruction plan for Iran worth at least $300 billion. That's kind of what I was talking about in terms of reparations. 60 days of negotiations to reach a final deal regarding the nuclear file. Release of $24 billion in blocked Iranian funds during the 60-day with immediate access to half of the funds. Okay, that must be where I heard the $12 billion, is that they want immediate access to 12, but 24 to be completely released by the end of the 60-day. Establishing a monitoring mechanism to implement the agreement. The final agreement will be approved by a UN Security Council resolution. So, that's according to this, that's coming from Mer News, which is like the IRGC, newspaper essentially. And speaking of Mer News, this one is from 1:16 p.m. today, so a couple hours ago. But it says, this is from Mer News. Iran says proposed deal not finalized amid U.S. backtracking. Tehran says it remains steadfast on its principled red lines as authorities review a proposed understanding, firmly rejecting speculation. A final deal has been reached despite Washington backtracking on recent military threats. Following claims made by U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday about an imminent deal between Tehran and Washington, an informed source told Tasnim news agency that the text of the understanding has not been approved up to this moment. Okay. So I guess so it hasn't been fully approved by Iran. I have seen Araghchi, the foreign minister, has been out saying that they're close, which is like a sign, right? It is a sign. Araghchi does not speak for the entire government, though, and there have been historical during this conflict, there have been circumstances where Araghchi has gone out and spoken a little out of turn, and he said stuff that the IRGC command structure did not agree with. And then had to backtrack, right? So we'll take it with a grain of salt, but it usually means that it's like on the way probably to some sort of agreement, but it's going to take, the hardliners getting on board. And we'll see if that happens. But I would say that like if all of those things that they mentioned in wherever that last one I had open was, whatever, I can't find it again. I keep losing stuff now. I'm trying this new tab system, so it's a little bit off. But if all of that's in there, then I think the IRGC will likely agree to it. So where was I? Meanwhile, Foreign Minister spokesperson Esmail Bagay confirmed that major sections of a potential understanding are close to completion. However, he rejected media speculations regarding a finalized agreement. Textually, the text has almost been finalized in its major parts. The problem is that the contradictory positions of the United States have always caused turbulence and disruption in this process, for sure. A lot of times, America will like tentatively agree to Iran's positions on paper, and then they will go out and say the exact opposite. Trump will say the exact opposite. It's part of trying to spin it, but also he just straight up lies, which obviously then makes it hard for Iran to actually trust what America is agreeing to. According to Tasnim, Washington recently attempted to alter the 14-point text proposed by Iran. However, American military and diplomatic pressure failed to force any concessions. Okay. The report said the U.S. has now announced through a Qatari mediator that there is no need for America's recent amendments. Iran entirely rejected the new changes after Trump tried to shift Tehran's positions through both military threats and Qatari mediation. Any proposed text still requires review and finalization by relevant Iranian institutions. Until then, all other news and speculations are invalid, noted Tasnim. The diplomatic retreat follows a sudden reversal by the U.S. president hours after threatening to strike, yada, yada, yada. That was all from yesterday. Based on the fact that discussions with the Islamic Republic of Iran have been brought to the highest level of Iranian leadership and approved, I have, as President of the United States, canceled the scheduled strikes. We already went over that yesterday. He alleged that final points were approved by all involved parties, though he stressed that the illegal U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports would remain in place. Iranian officials swiftly dismissed the notion of surrender, emphasizing that Tehran will determine the terms of a resolution. Let's see. Mohammed Makbar, advisor to the Islamic Revolution leader, told CNN that the war will continue until Washington respects Tehran's interests. If they respect Iran's interests and act accordingly, the war will end. Otherwise, it will continue. He warned that Trump is mistaken if he believes he can continue to test Iran's military capability, stressing that Tehran will not back down and not step back. Bagay echoed this resolve, stating that Iran has proven it will never submit to the demands of the other side. Iran has proven in practice that its red lines and the interests and welfare of the Iranian nation, that its red lines are the interests and welfare of the Iranian nation, and there will be absolutely no compromise in this regard. He added that if the Islamic Republic intended to retreat under pressure, it would have done so a year and a half ago. The diplomatic process continues to be disrupted by repeated acts of U.S. military aggression. Both the U.S. and the Israeli regime have repeatedly violated the declared April ceasefire. In Wednesday attacks, American forces targeted Iran's southern infrastructure and struck 2 water reserves in Syria County, disrupting drinking water supplies to more than 20,000 residents across the Hormozgan province in southern Iran. So anyway, there's some, official, publications from Mer News of where Iran is standing, or where the IRGC is standing in terms of these negotiations. To me, it sounds like they are, according to the textual agreements of what America is like posturing, or like what America has signed on to on paper, it sounds like they are they believe that they actually are in agreement, but obviously they also don't think that America is trustworthy, and that Donald Trump goes out and contradicts what he's signed on to in principle all the time. So there's a little bit of context from the Iranian side.
I assume what he's talking about when he talks about their weak and pathetic statement on the deal is the fact that we had heard that the response to the deal, or the response to President Trump, was that the text still requires review and finalization. They have been saying that it has not been signed off on. President Trump, of course, saying that everybody was in agreement. So that is what is happening now. And again, we've been down this path before. President Trump says a deal is imminent, and then we see a situation like this where one of the sides starts to backpedal and it all falls through. So we'll see what's going to happen now. U.S. officials are still cautiously optimistic.
We shall see. All right, Kristen Holmes over at the White House for us. Thank you very much, Pamela.
All right.
Yeah, well, at least even the media now is saying like it's a it's probably a crock of bullshit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Originally, people took it seriously, like took what the president said seriously. And in some regard, they kind of still do. And it's another reason that they lose a lot of their credibility all the time by continuously trying to take the most unserious, non-credible person, try to put their words out there as if it's actually like meaningful or means anything. The media really needs to, like, if they want to be accurate and not lose all of their credibility, they really need to caveat stuff, like they're kind of starting to do now by saying Trump has routinely said this. It has routinely turned out to be false. The war has continued even after he said there was going to be a deal. Like, he is an incredibly untrustworthy person when it comes to his posturing on these things. So we should take everything he says with a grain of salt. Like, they need to make those caveats if they want to, continue to be credible as like news sources. They tend to not do that, though, just because I think they have this reflexive instinct towards trusting, the institutions and the powerful.
Let's continue this conversation with CNN political and global affairs analyst Barack Ravid. He's also the global affairs correspondent for Axios. What do you make of this development with President Trump going from they've reached a great settlement to now saying Iran needs to get its act together because of what the state media there is reporting, which is different from what the U.S. has said?
Yes, I think what the U.S. has been told by the Qatari mediators and the Pakistani mediators and the Iranian negotiators themselves yesterday was that they're basically ready to sign. That was the message that the White House got. And preparation started for...
Well, of course they'd be ready to sign if America agrees to all of their demands, because they've had the same demands throughout this entire process for the last however many weeks since the ceasefire began. Iran has had the exact same demands, and it's what we just went over. And in some regards, I think they may have expanded on their demands since the ceasefire started as well. So, like, the only thing that could have possibly changed, in my opinion, is that America, at least behind the scenes, is starting to agree to some of those demands in the same way that eventually America, agreed to the Memorandum of Understanding, which obviously, as a framework for the deal, was a admission of defeat. It already was. As soon as America agreed to that, it was an admission of defeat. It was an admission that full-scale military conflict against Iran doesn't work. So, the only thing, in my opinion, that could have changed is, at least behind the scenes, that America is like trying to capitulate to some of these demands in some regard, that is allowing Iran to say that, okay, we might be a little bit closer. But again, Trump always comes out and like contradicts that anyway. So who knows?
A possible signing ceremony during the weekend. For example, 4 U.S. Air Force C-17 planes left Washington yesterday to Europe as an advance for possible trip by Vice President Vance to Geneva to sign this agreement with the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Muhammad Bakr Kalibaf. But I think what happened in the recent hours is what happened several times during those negotiations, that every time when the parties were close to a deal, each side wanted to market the deal to its own domestic audience. And when you do that, then each side obviously gives the deal its own.
I mean, to an extent, yes. They are both, like, I guess, marketing it, but America is doing like 100 times more marketing because America has to admit that it lost in order to get out of this. And Iran has been, like I said, asking for the exact same thing over and over again. And I don't see what could have possibly changed them from continuing to ask for the same thing over and over again this time. If they were, if this is what they were expecting, back directly after America was expending all of its military resources, 50% of its missiles in 6 weeks or whatever. And this is what they were expecting, given how confident they were at that point during the full scale hot war. None of these like individual strike actions are going to in any way change anything, like strategically from their position. So I don't see why they would back off of any of these whatsoever at this current point in time. Also, the blockade is minuscule in terms of its effect on Iran compared to its effect on the rest of the world. So
spin emphasizes the things that it's going to get and downplays the things that it's going to give. And I think that's again what happened today when the Iranian presented their narrative or their spin on what has been agreed, and President Trump pushed back and presented him and White House officials presented their narrative about what has been agreed. And I think it's not totally different, but I think each side just emphasizes what it is getting from a deal and not really talking about what it is giving in this deal.
Because Barack, when I woke up this morning and saw everything that was happening overnight, it looked like there was going to be a deal that included a 60-day ceasefire, including other stops, including a ceasefire involving Israeli strikes on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon as well. But now it looks like this whole thing potentially could collapse. Do you think potentially, God forbid, that the region now, the U.S., Israel, and Iran are on the verge of an all-out war?
I'm not sure, because I think even though President Trump ordered new strikes in recent days,
well, I'll hear what he has to say first.
Still below the threshold of an all-out war. I'm not saying it can't happen. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu definitely wants this war to resume because he doesn't believe the Iranians.
Okay, here's the reason that it's not returning back to all-out war. It is because there are physical, material constraints on what America is capable of doing. And also, I guess, America is maybe realizing that they were unable to impact Iran politically in any way, shape, or form, even when throwing everything they had at them, right? Iran weathered the storm perfectly fine. They were perfectly capable to continue being in a hot war indefinitely, right? And America went through 50% of its missiles during that time period. I believe that they are straight up at the physical constraints of what America is able to do, and that if they start using more of their missiles, right, then they will not have enough missiles for other future conflicts that they are that they are preparing for, right? They're preparing for conflict with Cuba. They're preparing for conflict with potentially Greenland. They're preparing for conflict with China, and so they don't want to use all of them. They went through 50% in six weeks of war. And then also, if they started up a hot war again, the missile interceptor situation would also be a limiting factor, and that they would continue to deplete all of those for any potential future conflicts as well. So I think they're just straight up at they just straight up realize that they are materially unable to go back into an air campaign like that, or they believe that maybe they need to save those missiles for the off chance that they have to go into a full ground occupation, which would need air support, interceptors, missile strikes, all of that stuff. And they're saving that just in case they need to go do that. I don't think that Trump really wants to commit to ground troops. And I also don't think the American people are would politically be wanting to do that as well. But I also wanted to show you guys, I don't need this one anymore. One second. Okay. Here's some this is from DropSite. Here's some analysis of some of the strikes that happened, I think, in retaliation for America's strikes after the, that helicopter, the people flying the helicopter, they valiantly flew it directly into a drone. Why'd you hit my drone with your helicopter, dude? That's one thing that I don't know if I buy that story. I don't know if I buy the story of that helicopter. But anyway, this is Dropside. It says newly analyzed satellite imagery indicates recent Iranian strikes on Bahrain's Sheikh Issa Air Base, which hosts, so this is Bahrain, which hosts U.S. forces, may have destroyed fuel bladders inside the facility and damaged a warehouse or hangar. Open source intelligence account Egypt's Intel Observer says the account also showed imagery captured yesterday that showed damage to a radar site at another site in Bahrain. So here's some pictures. This is, I assume, the before, and this is the after. You can see some direct hits on various military targets. Iran clearly still has the capability and will to strike American bases, American assets in the region. They also had established a new, I think, doctrine when it comes to escalations, where before they were generally rising with America, like during the actual hot war, whatever America targeted, they would end up targeting at a similar level. Thanks for the sub, J12 step. I appreciate it. But yeah, originally they were kind of escalating tit for tat with America during the hot war. But I think their new doctrine was whatever America, like however many targets America hit, they were going to like escalate further beyond that. And I think that they were hitting like twice, generally speaking, twice as many targets as America would hit on any of their strikes. So that's why they shot so many. I think they shot like 24 targets or something or shot at 24 targets on their last strike. And I think America hit like, 12 or so. So I think they have a new doctrine now in terms of their escalation as well. But also I wanted to show you guys this because our military industrial complex, or like CENTCOM and stuff, came out and said that nothing hit anything, that all of those strikes were completely intercepted. And I clock that as bullshit, probably bullshit, considering Iran's historical precedent during this war of being able to hit stuff. So anyway, there's some information on that as well. So I'm sure that's also in some regard constraining America from going back into a hot war as well, is that Iran seems very capable and seems to be escalating even faster than they were during the actual hot war before.
And he thinks that the regime needs to be weakened even more. But I think that at least at the moment, even though Trump just, posted this very angry response to the Iranians, my sense from talking to people that are involved in the negotiations on the U.S. side is that they still want to see if they can get to sign this agreement over the weekend. I still hear the same thing from the different mediators. So it might all collapse. We might seeing that at the moment how this thing is collapsing, but it might be, one of those hiccups that you have before you get to a deal.
Yeah, yesterday, President Trump was threatening to launch U.S. troops to take over Iran's critically important Karg Island.
Oh.
That sounds like that would be a major escalation.
And that was always bullshit. America, I don't think America's going to do it. Originally, I thought, back at the very beginning of the war, I thought the trajectory of escalation would lead to some sort of ground invasion by America. And honestly, I think that if it was a president other than Donald Trump, it might have. I do think that, like, generally speaking, the blob thing, right? If you just took if you embodied the deep state into a president, just put them in office, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, whoever, right? If you put the embodiment of the deep state in office and they were president, I think the average, just general, American, like foreign policy consensus blob would have just slowly walked into a ground occupation of Iran, like an incredibly costly one, similar to Iraq. But I do think that Trump has a particular fear of putting boots on the ground. And it's obvious, like, I think it's because he has railed on George W. Bush so much for the Iraq war that he doesn't want to, make the same mistake. And so I think that's kind of where, like, my assessment at the beginning was a little bit wrong. And I think that I'm now in the point, like, I'm now at the point where I don't think that he is truly going to end up putting boots on the ground in any capacity. And maybe he will, maybe he'll surprise me, but I do think that he has a genuine fear of doing that. And then obviously, like, there's no guarantee that would in any way be successful, because if you're going to this island and you're just sitting there trying to hold it for, I don't know, for the, I guess, strategic goal of stopping Iran from shipping oil, you're just a sitting duck. You're like a lot like all of these bases that I just showed you in Bahrain and stuff. A lot of the troops and stuff at these bases are just sitting ducks, ready to be attacked. So like, you're just going to be eating missiles 24/7. You also have to, supply that, which the strait won't be open. So you're going to have to create some sort of air supply. Like, logistically, it would be terrible. Like, it would just be terrible. There would be, for even just getting the island or whatever, there would probably be dozens, if not hundreds of deaths. And depending on how long we tried to hold it, there would just be a steady stream of deaths for that entire period of time. So I genuinely don't think that America is planning on doing that, like, right now, at least. Maybe if they get too backed into a corner, or feel too backed into a corner, if Trump does, maybe he will. But like I said, he's unique. He's unique in some regards when it comes to being a president and doing things that the foreign policy blob would traditionally not do. Another example of him doing that is when he, just tucked tail and ran from the Houthis. He said, it's not working. The strikes on Yemen aren't working. We've lost a few F-35s or whatever it was. And it's not really accomplishing anything. We're not opening the Red Sea, so we're just going to tuck tail and run. Like, he didn't say that, but like but that's why he did it. And yeah, so he does things that are sometimes oppositional to the general deep state foreign policy consensus. So that's why that's what I'm kind of leaning towards now as well.
In this war, right there, and a source is telling CNN, by the way, Barack, that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't aware of an agreement with Iran. And that remarkably, he learned of it only from social media. What does that say to you about the Trump-Netanyahu alliance?
Nothing.
At least right now.
It says nothing.
So first, about Carg Island, I have to say, I find it, at least at the moment, things change all the time and very quickly. I do not sense that there is either an appetite or a real operational plan, imminent operational plan, to do anything on Carg Island. I have no information that shows that this is where Trump really wants.
Yeah, we also saw what happened when America did try to do a ground operation, and when they tried to save that helicopter pilot or whatever, or the guy who got stranded, alleged person who was stranded out there, who we still don't know the name of, and we have not seen his face. He has not been thrown on TV. He has disappeared into the void. Nobody knows who he is or anything. But they tried to, save that guy. And what ended up happening is they were surrounded by Iran, like, firing on them constantly. And they ended up not being able to secure that location. And they had to flee and, like, destroy all of my tax dollars. They had to destroy all of my tax dollars that were there. So they already kind of tried a ground operation in some regard, and it failed. And also, kind of on that note, I wanted to read this real quick. I saw it. This is from today. U.S. military making plans to secure Iran's nuclear materials if deal is reached, sources say. So the if deal is reached, I assume that means like this isn't a military operation. But anyway, I kind of wanted to read this while we're on the subject. Of like a potential ground operation. Like, would they do this? I forgot what this one. Oh, actually, no, this was the one I wanted to read, or at least a portion of it. Okay, sorry, this is what I meant. Exclusive. U.S. military rushed to prepare ground mission to capture Iran's uranium, but Trump paused it, sources say. I won't read this whole thing because it's pretty long. But really, I want to read this section at the end, and I'll start with the beginning as well. The U.S. top general made a secret rush visit to U.S. CENTCOM headquarters in Florida late last month to be briefed in person on plans for the U.S. military to send ground troops into Iran to forcibly seize its highly enriched uranium, the key component necessary to produce a nuclear weapon, two sources familiar with the matter told CNN. The briefings were so urgent and sensitive that they required General Dan Kane, I assume that's Raising Cane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to rush from a meeting of senior NATO officials in Brussels back across the Atlantic to Tampa, Florida on May 19th, the sources said. The high-level and pressing nature of the briefings underscore how close the administration came to greenlighting the high-risk ground operation, sources said. A Joint Staff spokesperson declined to comment about the preparations for a potential operation. Kane then briefed President Donald Trump on the options for such an operation, one of the sources said, but Trump hit pause after being warned it would likely prompt severe Iran retaliation, extending the war and plunging the global economy into further turmoil, the sources said. Trump has also voiced concern about the potential for a significant number of U.S. casualties, according to sources familiar with the matter. What did I just say? And I promise you, I did not read this ahead of time. But this is just the obvious conclusion to anybody who uses their brain and does not just buy American propaganda on its face. Use your brain. I always tell people, use your brain. Like, think about this from a real perspective of what it would be like to be in Iran's shoes, what they would want, how they would interact, how they would respond to things. Like, you need to you need to always try to break out of Orientalist framing of American propaganda. The advanced planning for the operation came amid repeated statements by Trump that the U.S. and Iran were approaching an agreement to open the Strait of Hormuz and conclude negotiations on Iran's nuclear program. On Thursday, Trump said the U.S. and Iran would soon be signing a deal, but the discussions around sending ground troops into Iran just last month show how close the U.S. has come to a massive escalation of the conflict. Lots of risk, one of the sources familiar with the plans for the potential military operation said, adding it was not surprising Trump opted against giving the military the green light last month. And for the exact same reason, they're not going to do this Karg Island thing, or whatever island they're claiming now. They're not going to do that for this exact same reason. Tehran has also been planning an economic nuclear option if negotiations with the U.S. fail and the war resumes. Three people familiar with the matter told CNN, getting the Houthis, the Iranian chief proxy force in Yemen, to close the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. By the way, they have kind of done that to Israeli vessels only so far, is what they've said. But they haven't enforced it as far as I'm aware. They have not actually shot at any ships, which is the key indicator, I think, to shipping companies of whether it is too dangerous to go through. So they have said that, but I think shipping through that is still generally intact. A key waterway and global trade choke point that has served as shipping lifeline as the entrance to the Red Sea amid Iran's months-long closure of the Strait of Hormuz. A senior administration official responded to a request for comment. Blah, 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 blah. We don't need to read about Iran's uranium. Most people, I think, understand what uranium is and how it's used for a nuclear weapon and how Iran stores it. But let's go ahead and read this last section. If a ground operation to capture the uranium were launched, the risk of economic damage from closing of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, one of the outcomes intelligence assessments have warned about, could be catastrophic to the world economy. One source familiar with recent U.S. intelligence assessments told CNN, and it is notable that the Houthis have not resumed large-scale attacks against U.S. or other European vessels, but have said that any Israeli flagged or owned ships are fair game. Expanding the scope of potential targets beyond Israeli vessels would represent a serious escalation, the source noted. And obviously, Iran wants to hold these cards as long as possible. I would argue that it would actually be a potentially bad sign to see them enact this, actually enact this blockade, because it would mean that they would feel like they need to escalate to this level, and that would mean potentially that they are under more pressure than it seems like they are. So if they had done this immediately and blocked it off entirely, I would have been like, I don't know if that's necessarily a good sign, because it could be an indicator then that the blockade is actually doing more economic damage than I personally think that it is. So, I would have to reassess my positions if they ended up doing that. But it seems like they're holding off on that until America decides to do something, that really egregious. Same with hitting the desalination plants. I thought maybe they might do it when America hit Iran's water supply and that particular recent war crime, a couple days ago. But they did not. And again, I think that's a indicator more of feeling pretty confident that they don't even need to play some of these cards yet. The Iranians have only held back so far from enlisting the Houthis to take that step, the sources said, because they know it could derail ongoing peace talks. But it remains a card Iran could play if the pursuit of a deal falls apart and the U.S. resumes full combat operations. If the U.S. is even capable of resuming full combat operations, given how much it has deteriorated its missile and interceptor supply. Something Trump has been wary to do. I added that in between part, by the way. That was not in the article. They would never characterize things the way that I do, as someone who doesn't have to try to make things sound good from an American empire perspective. I don't really give a shit if America looks bad, so that's why I'm allowed to say characterize things in a way that they typically would not. Iran's standing army has been significantly weakened, so the biggest risk to U.S. troops should Trump order an operation to extract the uranium would likely be booby-trapped tunnels where the material is stored, as well as surface-to-air and shoulder-fired missiles, the source said. Iran also retains a significant percentage of its drone and ballistic missile stockpile, CNN has reported. That is I think that's complete bullshit. Iran's standing army has been significantly weakened. We haven't even seen their standing army engage in clashes yet. And Iran is prepared. I think that Iran, generally speaking, had two layers of preparation, right? They prepared for an air campaign first and foremost, by building all of their missiles, all of their factories, for manufacturing missiles, all of their critical infrastructure that they would need in an asymmetric conflict, long-term conflict, for an air campaign to be protected from missiles being dropped from the air. That was step number one. But I do think that they have plans for their army if there is a ground invasion, because I think they were also expecting that, the same way that I was expecting that. And I think that if there was a different president than Donald Trump, that would have potentially already happened. So I think they are very much prepared for that. And in fact, most of the people that I've seen representing Iran are saying they want America to do that, because then they can inflict incredible amounts of pain using standard guerrilla tactics, luring in American soldiers into easily hittable areas and then ambushing them. It would be incredibly easy, especially on their own terrain, which is an incredibly harsh terrain, by the way. Would be very difficult for American service members and troops to be able to move accurately and without knowing them. There's no way they're going to know where all of the tunnels are, right? There's no way they're going to know where the ambush points are. Iran would have obviously that home field advantage, which is one of the reasons why we shouldn't go into foreign wars ever, for no reason, for any reason. We should never do it. It's stupid. It's stupid. Kane and other military leaders have previously raised concerns about the scale, complexity, and potential for U.S. casualties that could result from an extended military operation against Iran. He and others inside the Pentagon also warned prior to the U.S. launching its war on Iran that a protracted military campaign would significantly impact U.S. weapons stockpiles and military readiness. Despite Trump's past comments about taking the uranium, he was dismissive of the option on Thursday in comments from the Oval Office. Nobody's going close to it because it's buried under a mountain. Trump said. So there you go. In terms of like the actual feasibility of doing any sort of ground operation, even Donald Trump thinks that it's bullshit. So okay, let's keep going on this. We'll finish up this video and maybe I'll read one more article if I feel like it.
And it is true that Netanyahu learned about Trump's post yesterday announcing that there's a deal from social media when he was sitting with his security chief and one of his advisors came into the room and told him that while they were discussing about what are the potential U.S. strikes that were going to happen several hours later, all of a sudden one of his advisors came in and said, well, there are no strikes. There's actually a deal, according to what President Trump just posted. And the U.S. did not notify Netanyahu in advance of this post. And I think that in the phone call, from what I heard from U.S. officials about a phone call Netanyahu and Trump had several hours later, Netanyahu was very, he sort of told the president that, you know, he understands that there is a deal and there's nothing he could do. I'm sure that if Prime Minister Netanyahu read President Trump's post from a few minutes ago, his mood improved significantly.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, Israel is obviously the wild card here. And so, okay, here's what's going to happen. In my personal opinion, what I think is going to happen is America is going to, nominally sign on to what Iran wants. Trump may have already done so behind the scenes or whatever. Iran will then, begin the process of and maybe this is what they're already doing. We'll begin the process of accepting those on their side as well. As this gets closer to fruition, there's going to be more and more leaks like this coming out, and all of the neocons, all of the hawks, all of the Zionists, and all of the Israelis are going to get up in arms, and they will begin attacking Trump as much as they possibly can. And also, honestly, a lot of the liberals and Democrats like Chuck Schumer and stuff are probably going to do so as well. They're going to go out there and they're going to say this is a stupid deal. This is worse than the JCPOA. Trump is an idiot. He shouldn't take it. He should keep bombing Iran. At which point, Trump may, historically, what Trump has done after that point is he has torn up the deal and re-entered some sort of limited strikes or doubled down on the blockade or whatever, but basically just stalling the deal, the ceasefire out even further with no progress, basically going back to square one. This is how it has historically gone. I'm not going to say that it's it's a 100% going to go that way again, but I will say that there is a high likelihood that is the direction is going to go again. But obviously America has to agree to Iran's positions at some point, or America can't operate in this capacity forever. Eventually America has to go home, as I always say. So the key, I think, the final nail in the coffin will be once the oil market really starts to collapse. Once the prices spike due to all of the countries around the world running out of reserves and stockpiles, and demand finally having to take over and actually impact the price of Brent crude, where they can no longer just live in a fantasy world that the conflict is going to end tomorrow and everything's going to be fine. Eventually, they will have to come to reality, at which point you'll get, the rolling blackouts in Europe, in East Asia. You'll get, America might be fine in terms of supply. However, you will get, $7 gas at the pump. All types of things will start happening once that happens. So at that point, the actual full geopolitical pressure starts to ramp up on Trump, and he will, be forced at some point to agree to these demands. So I still think this is going to keep going personally for probably, like I've been saying, another couple months. My original prediction was around the midterms is when it would stop. So we'll see how close I am in terms of timing. Predictions are always a fool's errand anyway. So I just do them more for fun. I don't think people should take them that seriously when I do that. So anyway, let's see. Do I want to... I do kind of want to read this last article real quick. It's real short, kind of related to Iran. So the U.S. military making plans to secure Iran's nuclear materials if deal reached, sources say. Now, this is from CBS, ZBS, Zionist Broadcasting Service, Barry Weiss's own. So take this with a grain of salt. This is probably going to be leaked directly from CENTCOM. This is probably going to be what they're saying, and I would definitely take everything in here with a grain of salt, but let's go ahead and read it. Washington, amid volatile diplomacy and tit-for-tat strikes between the United States and Iran, American military planners have discussed contingencies that would involve U.S. forces helping secure Iran's nuclear materials if a deal is reached, according to U.S. officials familiar with knowledge of the ongoing planning. The discussions, which remain preliminary and are contingent on a range of battlefield and political developments, center on how the Pentagon could support the Department of Energy in seizing Iran's highly enriched uranium. The officials told CBS News, speaking on condition of anonymity, to discuss national security issues. 100%. This was leaked by like Hegseth or something, right? This is a leak. This is just a leak from the State Department of hypothetical plans that are never going to happen. We already talked about why this is never going to happen. Under one scenario reviewed by defensive, and also apparently Trump already declined to do this earlier on. Under one scenario reviewed by defense officials, U.S. troops would be deployed to several countries across the Middle East to support a rapid response operation. Specialized teams from the Department of Energy working alongside military personnel and other U.S. government agencies could then enter Iran to locate, secure, and remove stockpiles of enriched uranium, the official said. They would all die. Probably they would all die. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I just think, just judging by what happened when when they were trying to find that totally real person out in the woods in Iran, I think that they would be under heavy fire the entire time. Before an American F-15E Strike Eagle was shot down back in April, triggering a major combat search, that's what I was talking about, search and rescue effort, Pentagon officials had examined a similar concept involving the Department of Energy's Nuclear Emergency Support Team, known as NEST. According to the officials, the proposal also envisioned participation from U.S. Spec Ops forces and the Army's 20th Chemical, Biological, Radiological, Nuclear Explosives Command, which specializes in countering weapons of mass destruction and hazardous materials. The officials told CBS News that the discussions do not represent a decision to conduct an operation, rather they are part of a routine military contingency plan. A senior administration official told reporters on a call Friday that under the terms of the deal, which could be signed in the coming days, Iran's enriched uranium would be destroyed on site and then taken out of the country. There will be a technical process to figure that out. The official said, so on a call Friday that a senior administration official told reporters on a call Friday that under the terms of a deal, which could be signed in the coming days, Iran's enriched uranium would be destroyed on site and then taken out of the country. There will be a technical process to figure it out, the official said, speaking on condition of anonymity. Technical negotiations are slated to last 60 days after MOU is signed, the official said. There's no way that's happening. There's literally no way that is happening. Not at the beginning of the deal. Maybe, after the 60-day threshold, they are supposed to begin negotiating on the nuclear issue, which will, I think, end up with Iran blending down back to JCPOA levels of enriched uranium. However, they are never going to allow it to leave the country. There is no chance in hell that is going to happen under any circumstance. So, okay, well, there we go. That's the current Iran situation. I'm going to close the tab group, and we're going to be done with it. Done. Delete group. Yeah. Cool. Okay. That was, my new attempt, I think a decent attempt at trying to make the story a little bit more dynamic, going back and forth between the video and other pieces of content. People can let me know how you think that went. Okay. I think the next thing that I wanted to cover today was the Belfast race riots. So, for those unaware, let me see. Actually, I need to open up my tab group. Okay. So, I think it was this one, right?
Please.
Yeah. So, for those unaware, sorry, 1 second. Give me a sec here. Okay. Sorry, I accidentally closed out of a relatively important tab for me. So I wanted to open it back up so I was not floundering in the middle of the actual segment itself. Okay. So yeah, now we're going to talk about the Belfast race riots. So yeah, for those unaware, in the UK, well, you know, in the United Kingdom, in Northern Ireland, you know, if only Ireland could retake Northern Ireland and just make it a part of Ireland, maybe they wouldn't be having all of these problems. But unfortunately, Northern Ireland is still a part of the UK. Viva la resistance, as I say. Anyway, for those unaware, there have been a huge amount of, you know, reactionary racists all going around burning down the homes of brown people and immigrants in Belfast recently. This all started when was it a Senegalese man, immigrant, asylum seeker, I think, stabbed a white person in Belfast, I believe. And then obviously all of the classic racist agitators online went and did their best to stoke the flames of a race war. And it looks like they are succeeding, at least as of now. So anyway, let's start with watching this video about, you know, the police are vowing a robust response. Like, if you watch my last segment on it, I complained about how the police of the UK seem to only care about brutalizing and beating the shit out of Palestine Action, like union members and like grandmas and grandpas, and they don't like to ever use that same amount of force when it comes to right-wing reactionaries who are trying to kill as many, like lynch and kill as many black people as they, or like brown people as they possibly can. So let's see what this robust response that the police are saying that they're going to do. Let's see if we believe them, if they're actually going to, you know, do anything about this. And we'll see if I can, you know, give some more information on this as we go.
In Northern Ireland have vowed to crack down on any further trouble after 2 nights of unrest triggered by a brutal stabbing in Belfast on Monday.
You get 2 nights of lynching, 2 nights of race riots, and then we're gonna, sorry guys, the fun's over. It's like the Knicks game, right? Or you can hang out, you can party, you can have fun, but you know, eventually we gotta close down the bars and stuff, right? Like, you can't just keep lynching like all day every day. You can't keep doing your little race riots forever. Eventually we gotta stop the party, everybody. That's what the police are saying.
12 police officers were injured in the violence last night. 16 people were arrested and 2 have been charged.
16. That's like 1/100th of the amount of Palestine Action protesters that have been arrested so far, just if people were curious.
Officers used water cannon and plastic bullets to control the crowds. Well, Clive Murray was there as it unfolded and joins us from Belfast. Clive.
Yeah, hi there, Sophie. We're in Glengormley, which is just north of Belfast, where the rioting last night was horrific. Masked men, they dug up paving stones, they grabbed bricks, they threw them at the police, and they also threw petrol bombs, which destroyed a lot of property. Look at this house here now. And it was only water cannon that ended up pushing back the rioters and quelling the situation down a little bit. Now, businesses and schools.
By the way, I assure you, if these people were, you know, if they were advocating for some sort of like leftist cause, or if they were, you know, Palestine supporters and like a Palestine protest or something that got out of hands, I guarantee you, like, they would all be like fucking dead at this point. I mean, that's hyperbole, but they would have used so much more force. They would have like, you know, beat the shit out of them instantaneously. There is an incredible double standard when it comes to what reactionaries and racists are allowed to get away with in terms of rioting, compared to like, compared to, you know, any sort of like anarchist or left-wing sort of violence, or, you know, usually when it comes to left-wing violence, it's only ever property crimes or whatever. These are, you know, obviously intended to kill the people. Like, these are like, this is like attempted murder of brown people, right? It's like it's a like hate crime essentially. It's organized, you know, hundreds of people organized doing hate crimes and terrorism across the region.
They had to close early today. Bus services ended at around 5:30 this afternoon, and train services stopped at around 8 o'clock, all in anticipation of more violence tonight. But thankfully, it seems things are pretty quiet so far. Here's Sarah Gervin.
Another night of violence on the streets of Northern Ireland, this time north of Belfast. Residents could only watch on as masked men, riot police and water cannon raced past their homes.
The fuck is this, dude? This is straight up old school race riots. Like, let me pull up some pictures real quick. Race riots America pictures. Look, let's just go through them. Look at this. It's the same shit. It's the same shit. Look, cars on fire. You know, just like people rampaging through the street, breaking into buildings, burning them down. It's literally just the exact same shit. Look. It looks the exact fucking same. Just like thugs and, you know, reactionaries just going from brown person to brown person house and like just trying to, oh wait, I didn't even show the thing, sorry. I thought I pulled it onto my tabs, but it didn't actually attach. But like, look at this. It's all the exact same thing. Like, you got cars on fire, you got buildings on fire, you got people just running amok in the street, just trying to maraud from like house to house looking for brown people to try to kill. Like, it is no different. We are the exact same. We are fucking monkeys, man. Everybody, like, the current society is no different than the past. The people of the current society are no different than the past. And it's why I always like, I like to like also talk about things like historical injustices that we think are like things of the past, right? For instance, things like slavery or whatever, right? There's a lot of people who just kind of assume that like slavery can't come back because we as a society have moved past it. I assure you it can, and actively is, okay? It's not going to look the same, but it is going to functionally be the same. Currently that's happening in like our prison labor system in America, right? Where they are, you know, trying to, it's not necessarily based entirely on race anymore, although significantly more black people are thrown into jail to be slave laborers than white people. But it is like now they are just, you know, putting people in jail so that they can work for slave wages and like increase the profits of like private prisons and various capital owners or whatever, right? It is just slavery that they're reenacting again. And we need to, it's important for people to understand that we are not fundamentally different than the people of the past, both in terms of like the things that can, like the systems of oppression are like, if they're not something that you can just assume are going to be relegated to the past. You need to actively go out there and fight them and fight these things from coming back. So we have these race riots here, right? These reactionaries and racists marauding down the street, burning down houses of brown people and trying to kill as many black and brown people as they possibly can. And you like, you need to, like, we need to fight back against this. And also, if the police, by the way, if the police out there aren't going to do it, if they are not actually going to go out there, which is ostensibly their whole fucking purpose, the whole fucking purpose of police is to protect people from acts of random violence. Like, you know, nominally, that is what they're supposed to do. I don't personally believe that that's what they're supposed to do. I think they're there to protect property, the private property of like billionaires and millionaires and the elites. However, that is nominally what they are supposed to do. And if they're not going to do it, it becomes upon us to do it, for us to organize and for the people of these communities to organize. To all of the people living in Belfast, I know that you live in the UK and you do not have the same rules and regulations when it comes to guns and gun ownership. You need to protect yourselves, okay? You need to organize yourselves. You need all of the people in these houses that are being targeted for being burned down. You need to know your neighbor, and you need to be able to go out there and fight with violent resistance against these thugs. They need to be stopped. And if the police isn't going to stop them, you need an organized resistance to be able to stop them. So, you know, I'm just giving you guys some advice. It doesn't seem like the police is going to step in to protect people here. It really doesn't. And when the police don't step in to protect people, it becomes upon us, the people, to protect others. And so, yeah, I would say arm yourselves to the best of your ability, you know, and protect yourselves and protect your community.
Oh my God, there's a whole riot going on right outside my house. Unbelievable, it's like a war zone. That van there behind you crashed into my property, was set alight. I was just completely stressed with that. I thought it was going to explode.
Video footage shows that many of those involved in the violence are young men. But who's organising it?
What we have seen is significant coordination from online social media activity, some from people within Northern Ireland and some from outside of Northern Ireland, outside the island of Ireland, generating that activity. That momentum, that drive, that toxicity is what's bringing people out onto the streets.
It's incitement too. It's incitement. It is incitement. I mean, come on. Like, look. I'm a free speech guy. I like free speech. You can't be saying things like, oh, the people should like take to the streets and they're doing, you know, they're taking back their country. Like, you can't be saying that. Okay. That is straight up incitement. You are inciting this. Like, come on. What are we doing here?
To stop.
As the violence continues, so does the fear among Northern Ireland's minority.
And also, a lot of this is coming from millionaires and billionaires in America. Dear God, we need to stop them. I have another segment coming up about SpaceX, but they no longer feel afraid at all. It is clear now. It is clear that they no longer feel afraid of any consequences whatsoever for their actions. They think that they have enough money, they have enough power to do whatever the fuck they want. Also, as evidenced by the Epstein files. That we need to put the fear of God back into these people. They need to know that, like, you know, the things I talked earlier about how we're not fundamentally different from the past. That includes the people as well. That when this sort of like wealth inequality sort of happens, right? And these people are allowed to just get away with impunity of like stoking racist agitation and stuff. Like there will be a time where it becomes too much for the average person, and they will rise up and hopefully seize all of that wealth and power from them, and hopefully make them face justice in some way too.
Communities
evacuated so many families from their homes and secured safe accommodations for them. And I have seen the women and kids terrified and in shock. Everyone is terrified. We are keeping our kids at home. I haven't sent my kids to school since it happened.
At this school in Belfast, that fear is clear to see.
Looking at our registration numbers for today alone, we've just under half of our school population not in school today. And looking at who those children are, they are predominantly children from newcomer families. So we have had a number of phone calls from parents saying that they're just too scared to leave the house.
Police have promised a robust response to any further unrest with water cannons.
I'm going to just read something real quick from this about the Chicago race riot of 1919. So that people can be aware, right? People can be aware of the similarities and, what's going on here. The Chicago race riot of 1919 was a violent racial conflict between white Americans and black Americans that began on the south side of Chicago, Illinois on July 27th and ended August 3rd, 1919. During the riot, 38 people died. Obviously, this is different in scale, right? I don't know if anybody actually died from this. But yeah, over the week, injuries attributed to the episodic confrontation stood 537, 2/3 black and 1/3 white, and between 1,000 and 2,000 residents. Due to its sustained violence and widespread economic impact, it is considered the worst of the scores of riots and civil disturbances across the United States during the Red Summer of 1919. So named because of its racial and labor violence. It was also one of the worst riots in the history of Illinois. In early 1919, the socio-political atmosphere of Chicago, this is what I want people to listen to so that they can try to make some comparisons here. In early 1919, the socio-political atmosphere of Chicago around its rapidly growing black community was one of ethnic tension caused by long-standing racism, competition among new groups, an economic slump, and the social changes engendered by World War I. Now, they don't have a war to blame this on right now. Britain does, but this sounds very familiar to the current state of Britain, right? Obviously, there's longstanding racism in Britain. There's a growing immigrant community that is scaring, those racists. There's increased competition as goods and services that used to be publicly offered are being taken and are being privatized. They did Brexit, so I think there's some economic implications. And then, like I said, they don't have a war to blame that on, but. With the Great Migration, thousands of African Americans from the American South had settled next to neighborhoods of European immigrants on Chicago's South Side, near jobs in the stockyards, meatpacking plants, and industry. Meanwhile, the long-established Irish fiercely defended their neighborhoods and political power against all newcomers. That's another. This is one of those things where this is like distinctly, American about this particular time period in American history. Let's see. Post-World War I racism and social tensions built up. Overcrowding and increased African-American resistance against racism, especially by war veterans, contributed to the racial tension, as did white ethnic gangs unrestrained by police. What am I talking about right now when it comes to the police in Europe? Anyway, let's read this next sentence too and see if there's any other similarities. The turmoil came to a boiling point during a summer heat wave with the murder of the 17-year-old Eugene Williams, an African-American teenager who inadvertently had drifted while swimming. Okay, well, actually, this one's a little bit different. I take it back. I thought I just read this part. I thought it started by the killing of a white person, or by the death of a white person, but I did not realize it was the actual death of an African American. So, okay, that one's a little bit different. Never mind. When the raft drifted, let's see, a group of African American youths were diving from a 14-foot by 9. When the raft drifted into the unofficial white beach area, one white beachgoer was indignant. He began hurling rocks at the young man, striking Williams and causing the teen to drown. So, okay, this is a little bit inverted then from the current situation. But yeah, well, this is more, honestly, this is more in line with, the historical racism. But yeah, in the particular circumstance, when it comes to this one, it was a black immigrant, the ethnic minority who, a person from that ethnic minority killed a white person, or not killed, but attacked a white person, stabbed a white person, and then a bunch of racist agitprop people online, piled on and caused it to go nuclear. But anyway, there's some similarities, there's some differences, but I'm just trying to explain to people that this is like, I'm trying to make this comparison because I want people to understand that this is nothing new. This is something that we have been going through for hundreds of years. And it's important to be able to make historical parallels, to help people modernize history, I think, because you're not able to really understand history unless you can put the context, put that context, which is different, obviously. I just explained how some of the inciting incidents were different. However, the reactions and the underlying tensions were the same. And so, yeah, let's keep going.
And extra officers and dogs deployed. It's hoped this will help deter those behind this week's violent scenes from even further destruction. Sarah Garvin, BBC News in Belfast.
Well, the riots in recent days, on the face of it, they've been about immigration, and yet just 3.4% of the population of Northern Ireland actually come from ethnic minority groups. As I've been finding out, so much of what has taken place over the last 3 or 4 days is rooted in ideas of the past. In Belfast, there are echoes of the past in the present.
Years ago, we went through it, the troubles, and these guys are coming in now, and they're taking over.
The troubles.
The new battleground.
Wait, from Northern Ireland's perspective, they were the bad guys, right, during the troubles. Am I wrong? I mean, I don't know my Irish history 100% about the conflict between Ireland and the UK, or the nationalist movement for an independent Ireland. But I'm pretty sure the UK were the ones who were, trying to starve and kill as many Irish civilians as possible. But I don't know. I'd have to go back and read over that a little bit more.
Immigration.
It's frightening. I really do think it's frightening, especially knowing that there's people in their homes frightened and afraid to come out because of the colour maybe of their skin.
A divided city on so many things, now seemingly at odds on one of the major issues of our time. There is a hard truth about the violence of recent days here. It's all taken place in predominantly loyalist areas. 2 nights ago, cars burned in
I assume loyalist means loyal to the UK, if I had to guess, because I assume because this is Northern Ireland, right? There's probably some people who are more aligned with a full complete national national Ireland, and independent Ireland, removing the UK from ownership of Northern Ireland. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Ireland. Oh, but I can't move it. I'd have to switch my browser content. Never mind. Maybe I can actually just Ireland picture, or Northern Ireland. Okay, this will do. So you see, this is Northern Ireland. It's a relatively small portion of the full country of Ireland, but I'm sure that there are plenty of people within Northern Ireland who would want to become a part of just Ireland proper. So when they say loyalists, I'm assuming they mean people who are loyal to the UK and want to continue being a part of the UK, which would make sense. The monarchists and stuff historically were aligned with reactionary right-wing forces.
Master Street. Apparently, it's a couple of Roma families that live in these properties that were attacked. And the guy next door...
Also, this is all intentional too. The stoking of these ethnic tensions, right? This is all intentionally being done by the elite, by the billionaires, by the pedo billionaires. Oh, and actually now I got to say it, the pedo trillionaires too, like Elon Musk, because now we've allowed a trillionaire to exist in the world. And what do you know? The people at the top, the elites, are consistently stoking racist tensions to try to get people to attack each other, as opposed to fight against them. This isn't anything new. This is something that has gone on forever.
Was eating his dinner. He heard an almighty explosion, and it was a vehicle on that side of the street that was being set on fire. He rushed out, and everything was in flames. God knows when the families will be able to return to this area if they ever do?
It's just maddening.
Maddening. This is Loyalist East Belfast. This man wouldn't tell me his name. Were you worried here in your own home?
No, because I know it wasn't for us. It's for what's going on in this country. And I don't blame the thing. I blame the government.
But it was right on your doorstep.
I know it was.
You don't blame the people who were doing that, setting fires to houses and things?
No.
Don't blame them at all?
Years ago, we went through it, the Troubles.
Racism is a hell of a drug, by the way. Racism is a hell of a drug. It's crazy to me how much people are willing to like suffer, like physically, like mentally, just put themselves through suffering just so that they can continue to like try to hold on to an idea of like racial superiority or whatever. It is they will literally like allow you to like, I don't know, like punch them in the face. They will allow the pedo billionaires to punch them in the face and fuck their wife, and they will be like, oh, thank you, sir, thank you. I do hate the migrants. You're right, I do hate them. Please keep taking everything from me, please.
We went through it. I'm 68, coming 69. We went through it all. So with that, and these guys are coming in now and they're taking over.
Sorry, I missed that part about the terror. I wanted to, or the terrorists. I wanted to.
Years ago, we went through it, the Troubles.
Or the Troubles, sorry.
We went through it. I'm 68, coming 69. We went through it all. So with that, and these guys are coming in now and they're taking over.
East Belfast has become a name associated with violence.
This is a community that during decades of violence between loyalists and Republicans fought for its identity.
The Irish Republican Army was the liberation army of Ireland proper.
It's a poor area and competition for housing and jobs is fierce. Mass migration is now the perceived threat. In the shadow of Stormont, well, they're gathering just up the hill there, where a peaceful protest was planned. One loyalist activist denies this is all about bigotry. Wasn't some of what we saw just down to pure racism? Some of those people on the streets, they just don't like brown people, black people, whatever.
Obviously.
No, I don't think so. And I would reject.
You don't have to take these guys' words seriously. If they're a part of this, their words mean literally nothing. You can wipe your ass with
that characterization of it, because these issues are more about the social conduct and behaviour of foreign ideologies which come here with social values and practices. That doesn't feel like your community.
That's racism. That's straight up fucking racism. It's literally, you just described racism. Like, what? I don't think they're racist. They're just coming over here with their foreign ideas and customs and like looks, and like they're just taking over. Like, and we just don't like that. It's not racist. It's like, what are you talking about? You literally just perfectly described racism. Real quick, I want to read this this article because this is kind of relevant to this discussion here. About Belfast, because I talk a lot about America because that's what I know more than Northern Ireland or the UK, because I live in America, obviously. And in America, I know that immigrants commit crimes at a far lesser rate than national or natural born citizens. It's a pretty incredible statistic. Let's see, immigrant crime versus natural born citizen, America. I assume it'll give me the America. I'm trying to find the actual stats somewhere. Give me 1 second. Maybe there's a graph. Here, let's just look at this real quick. So we got a lot of studies from Texas, I guess. What's this one? What's this one? Okay, so you got legal immigrants. Like, this is crime rates for violent crimes. You know, this is a Texas study, I guess, from 2012 to 2018, where you have legal immigrants in red, you got U.S. born citizens in blue, and you got undocumented immigrants in yellow. And you can see there's just a clear, a clear correlation here between being an immigrant or being a undocumented immigrant in particular, and not, and doing less crime. So that's in America. Those are the, the stuff that I know. However, this article this is from 2025 by The Guardian, asking about asylum seekers in particular, which I believe this is what this man who stabbed this guy was. So let's go ahead and read it and see if there's any information about the statistical how much crime or whatever immigrants do compared to non-immigrants in the UK. This is called "Are Asylum Seekers Really More Likely to Commit Violent Crime in the UK?" As claims spread suggesting men from certain backgrounds have a propensity to commit certain crimes, here's why the statistics fail to provide the full picture. It is a familiar pattern in news coverage of recent months. A horrific, often sexual crime is committed by an asylum seeker or foreign national, or a stabbing. A flurry of headlines and commentary follows, suggesting that men from the country, ethnic group, or religion in question have a propensity to commit these types of offense. This was also a historical analogy to the South in America, where if there was any sort of actual incident where a black person, raped a white person or something, it would be pushed as a reason to lynch, kill, riot, all that sort of stuff. So a common theme was crystallized by the Daily Mail's Sarah Vine on Wednesday after 2 Afghan asylum seekers were jailed for raping a 15-year-old girl. For too long, this country has ignored the reality of what happens when men from certain cultures are let loose in our liberal democracy. As someone who lives in America, I assure you that the people you need to look out for, generally speaking, are not immigrants. Straight white men, especially people in power, particularly those who are associated with a man named Jeffrey Epstein, are generally speaking the ones you need to look out for when it comes to this. But obviously, anybody who is relatively conservative coded tends to have a problem, it feels like, with when it comes to issues with underage people. What are you saying, Frank Blob? You don't know what you're talking about. If people come to Ireland and don't respect our people and our way, they will stood up to and hurt. Not the most elegant speaking. Are you sure you speak English? Is my first question. Are you sure that are you sure you know English? Oh, message retracted. Okay. He must have gotten a little upset. Okay, let's continue reading. It is a familiar pattern in news coverage of recent months. I already did that. Let's start down here. Increasingly, politicians express outrage too, not just at the offense itself, but at the immigration status of the perpetrator. They repeat pledges to make it harder for people to enter the country illegally. Sometimes those commenting claim to be backed by statistics, but more often it is anecdotal. The preponderance of news stories themselves held up as evidence, accompanied by numerous police mugshots of brown or black men. Vine also wrote, "I don't care if I'm accused of scaremongering or worse. Facts are facts, but the difficult truth is that the evidence is complex and frequently absent from official data." It is true, for example, that Afghan nationals offend in the UK at a higher rate than British nationals, okay, but the difference has been exaggerated and does not account for the difference in demographics between the two groups in the UK. While lists of crimes committed by foreign nationals create one impression, a similar list could be created of violent offenses by white British men that would create another, but rarely attract coverage focused on ethnicity. And while offending rates may be higher among some immigrant groups, it is also true that if you are a victim of a violent or sexual crime in the UK, the available evidence suggests that the ethnic makeup of the country means that the perpetrator is more likely to be a white man. This doesn't surprise me with what I was just talking about in America. I know America more than I know the UK, so but this also doesn't surprise me. Generally speaking, white men have been the historical perpetrators of these crimes at higher rates than immigrants, but at least in America. Sundar Katwala, the director of the think tank British Future, said there's a big concerted effort on both sides of the Atlantic to create this migrant crime crisis argument as a big piece of the argument about the dangers of immigration and the impossibility of integration. For sure. And like I said, this is an agitative propaganda tool by our pedo billionaires. They are trying their best they are trying their best to get people to fight against each other, as opposed to focus their attention on the people who are making their lives actually worse. If you get people to go out and believe that migrants are the ones who are causing your problems, as opposed to go out and organize and target the people who are actually causing your problems, like in the UK it would be like currently the Labour government or any of the governments who implement austerity and take away social services and decrease the standard of living of people. That's good for them. That's what they want to happen. In the end, it's a really tricky thing to counter because it captures something about perceptions about crime and something about the perceptions of migration and integration, and it fuses them together. He noted that crime rates overall were falling, with sexual assault an important exception, but that story rarely made the news. For the citizen, it's not something you see. This is from 2025. So anyway, let's look at what the data says. The reality is that the government's own data cannot tell us how many crimes are committed by asylum seekers because the Ministry of Justice does not record offenses by immigration status. As such, there is no official way to compare offending rates of asylum seekers with the wider population. That's unfortunate. I would like to know that information because I think that it would probably validate my assumptions just based on what I know from America. There are various proxies, but none of them give a cast iron answer. For example, information on crime is collected by nationality, but that only gets us so far. The category foreign nationals lumps together a wide mix of people: recent arrivals, long-settled immigrants, students, health and care workers, their dependents, and also asylum seekers. With that context in mind, the figures we do have show that overall foreign nationals in England and Wales are imprisoned or convicted at roughly the same rate as British nationals, according to an analysis by the Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford. Let's look at a more granular look, I guess. When you adjust for age and sex, important because young men are disproportionately likely to commit crime and migrant populations tend to be younger, the share of non-citizens in prison is actually lower than the share of British citizens. There is no publicly available data on conviction rates after adjusting for age. I would also like to see this information based on violent versus property crime as well, because I always categorize those two completely differently. Non-citizens are slightly less likely to be in prison than UK citizens. Let's see. The gray is the share of prison population age group that is foreign as a percent, and expected share if foreigners were incarcerated. Blue is the expected share if foreigners were incarcerated at the same rate as UK nationals. Okay, that's kind of hard to understand. Let me read that again. Expected share if foreigners were incarcerated at the same rate as UK nationals. Okay. Oh, that is foreign. Okay, so these are the same. Okay, so this is what it would be if they were expected. Or like, this is the expected value. This is the actual value. So you can see 16 to 24, they were expecting 10%. They got 16%. So there's more than the UK, I guess, when it comes to like this particular statistic. But then down here you got share of prison population age group that is foreign percent is 14, where the expected share, if it was the same as UK national rate, is 17. So it's lower here than the UK. It's 11 compared to 20 in the 35 to 44 range. It's lower here, it's lower here, it's lower here. Not by a super significant margin, but Frank Blob is back with a much better formulated sentence, but he says, immigrants come to Ireland and don't respect our ways and laws. I'm just going to go ahead and say that is a very, classic racist ideology to have, okay? Now, I don't like disagree that like people should, people can integrate, but I think that we should really, in my opinion, celebrate our differences. And the main question I have for you, Frank Blob, is do you think it is, do you think that, say, kicking out all of these immigrants or whatever is going to actually improve your material conditions? Do you think it's going to make your life better, or do you think this is a distraction being pushed on you by the people, the elites of your society? Because in my personal opinion, these sorts of narratives that are being pushed by people like Elon Musk, a person who grew up in South African apartheid, like they are straight up just trying to agitate people so that they do not fight against the people who really are causing the problems. So I'd be curious on your thoughts on that particular thing. Anyway, Ben Brindle, and feel free to take your time on responding, by the way. Ben Brindle, a researcher at the Migration Observatory who carried out the analysis, said, "I thought it's likely that asylum seekers are more likely to commit crimes, but that's in good part due to some of the other characteristics that those people tend to have. For instance, asylum seekers are more likely to be young men, and young men are more likely to commit crime. In a perfect world, you'd want to be comparing a young male Brit to a young male asylum seeker to try and account for that, but we can't do that with the statistics we got." Okay. Well, there's, some actual hard data to kind of, it's not a ton, right? It doesn't seem like they really keep that information, which is, I think, a problem. I really think that I think that the UK should keep, information on immigration status just so that we can know this information when it comes to committing crime. But anyway, let's finish up this video and then I'm probably going to move on to a new story.
And for people in Northern Ireland, they've never experienced that before. That feels, and I don't use this in a pejorative way, but that feels alien to them.
And yet, in the Short Strand area of East Belfast, cheek by jowl with the loyalist community, is a small nationalist enclave where immigration appears to be less of a concern.
26 years.
26 years? You've seen a lot in that time.
Oh, yes, I have seen a lot.
This woman has worked here for more than 2
Also, another thing is that immigrants very often, at least in America, they tend to prop up communities that have failed, that have been left behind. Like, this is a common occurrence in America, especially after we deindustrialized and moved up all of our factories overseas and stuff. A lot of these communities started dying until immigrants came and built them back up. And yes, there were a lot of people who were mad about that, right? Didn't like it. However, now I think a lot of these communities are actually thriving, and when people learn to just embrace and accept other people's different cultures and stuff, I think that it makes for a much better, a much more improved existence and a greater fabric of social cohesion and civic engagement than if people siphon themselves off and segregate themselves. In any particular way. And again, if you I think that if people's material conditions were getting better, this sort of stuff wouldn't work that much. It wouldn't, people wouldn't be as scared of immigrants coming in and changing their demographic makeup or whatever, if people were feeling materially secure, which is why we need to actually fix these underlying systems to actually, to move past this era of, honestly, just unabashed, anti or white nativist mentality.
Decades. She didn't want to give me her name. Echoes of 69.
Yes, that's because in 1869, Protestants burnt the Catholics out of Bombay Street.
Yeah.
And left them homeless. So the same thing is happening now today with the immigrant families.
Good morning, how are you? How's things?
One shopper asked me how I felt about visiting loyalist areas.
You asked me about how I was.
Yeah. Because you don't mind me asking, because you're a person of colour. So I was just wondering, how do you feel? Do you feel safe?
I do, actually.
Well, you're a news reporter for the BBC. They're probably not gonna let them like lynch you or whatever. Usually they, if you're a part of the elite club, then you're usually pretty safe. But okay. Let's see. I think I'm probably gonna call it on that. I need to get to one more story before well, okay. Yeah, no, I think I'm just going to call it on Belfast, and we'll move on to SpaceX. Speaking of people doing racist agitprop, Elon Musk. Before, I've always said that I believe that billionaires should be outlawed. You should not be allowed to accumulate more than $1 billion of wealth. But I think, unfortunately, I now have to amend that. I have to amend it to say, I also don't believe that we should allow $1 trillion of wealth, because, baby, we got our first trillionaire in the world. Oh, sorry. Let me get back to Frank Blob real quick. Ireland is not America. Ireland has been taken advantage of by immigrants. Where they come from is different than us. They don't respect us. I'm sorry, but you're just saying the exact same talking points I hear all the time in America. And I don't agree with them over here either. We also have our own form of, racist agitprop towards immigrants, and it's exactly what I just said. It's not nobody, by the way, America has recently completely shut off immigration. I don't know if you know this. According to the government, and I don't know if I trust their numbers 100%, but they say that we have net zero migration right now. And guess what? Everybody's life still fucking sucks. Everything's too expensive. Nobody can pay for anything. You break your bone and you go bankrupt. Everything still sucks in America after we got to net zero migration. I assure you, if you did the same thing in Ireland, if you're actually from Ireland, it would be the exact same. Okay. So I'm really, look, I'm not trying to attack you. Okay. I understand, especially when we've all been propagandized a lot towards, people who are different than us, coming into our neighborhoods. This is an active propaganda campaign by people in power to make us fearful of others, okay, to keep us fighting each other. I'm not trying to attack you or anything here. I just want you to understand that your ideology is not going to improve anybody's life. If you move to the logical conclusion of what you want in terms of kicking out all of the immigrants or whatever from your country, it's not going to improve your life at all. It's not going to improve your neighbor's life at all. You need to actually fix the underlying systems to do that. And we can all live in relative harmony with each other, if we're not being forced at each other's throats all the time, in my personal opinion. Anyway, sorry, Frank Blob. I got to move on to SpaceX. So, like I was saying, I personally, I do not believe that billionaires should be allowed to exist. Okay. I think that we should tax them all to oblivion. And one of the main reasons that I believe that is because they get, by accumulating so much wealth, by accumulating so much power, they are able to be a corrosive influence on both just the natural public, as we saw with Elon Musk's, agitation of these Belfast riots, and obviously on our politics as well. They are able to buy our politicians. They are able to manipulate our markets so that they can profit more, and so that workers don't get a fair share. They can, basically, as we saw with the Epstein files, they can get away with whatever the fuck they want. And so that's the main reason. But also, I'm a petty ass bitch as well, in that they have done so much. They have been so corrosive on our society for so long that I just want to take it just to take it. I've also always said that it would be better to take all of their money and just burn it, like not even do anything with it. It would be better to just take all of their money and just burn it than allow them to have it. And yes, and now I think that if we ever do that now, it's gonna be a long fire, because yeah, Elon Musk is officially, I think, a trillionaire, and SpaceX is now IPO. It is now a publicly traded company. So let's go ahead and watch this video. Let's try to figure out what's going on with SpaceX. And the stocks, it looks like last time I heard, the stocks are still, people are still buying them. The stock price is still going up, which wasn't unexpected, I think. We'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, let's go and watch this.
He was already the world's richest man, but now Elon Musk can claim a new title, world's first trillionaire. His company, SpaceX, began trading on the NASDAQ today, already raising a whopping $75 billion for its initial public offering. That is the largest IPO in history. And this was Musk just this morning.
It's certainly hard to believe that a little company that started in a warehouse in El Segundo is now
just a little tiny small business made by the world's richest person. Like what? just started in a garage, started building rockets in a garage, and just a little tiny plucky young company, funded and paid for by the world's richest man. Like, what are you talking about?
Is now going public for with the largest IPO that ever. And let me tell you,
and still, nobody has ever told me, how on earth will this ever be profitable? I don't get it. The only part of the business that could be profitable is Starlink. Everything else is going to be a money pit indefinitely. Like they're not going to be able to create like this futuristic space technology that is going to somehow, like, I don't know, produce wealth or money of any sort. What are they going to do up there? Like, if they do create like more space stations, how is that going to make money, right? What productive goods are they going to make? Like, I literally cannot even fathom. Like, they're not going to build anything on the moon. They're not going to build anything on Mars. Like, at least not for decades. If not centuries. Like, I literally, nobody has ever told me how this company will ever become profitable.
People had told me this was gonna happen. I was like, man, you must be smoking some really good crack, because I think this company's gonna fail.
It is a deal that not only dramatically expands Musk's wealth, but also expand his reach into pivotal sectors of the global economy, including artificial intelligence. MS Now's Will McDuffie is live for us at the NASDAQ, and Sarah Freer is managing editor for technology coverage at Bloomberg. Welcome to you both. Will, take us inside of this IPO launch, what it all means for the company and Musk.
Well, Alex, it was highly anticipated in no small part because of the uncertainty around it. Experts weren't sure exactly how this stock was going to fare on the open market, and so far we've seen it surge well past its IPO price, which has been, I think, received well by a lot of the folks who we saw out here before 9.
Yeah, I mean, on the initial hype, I'm not necessarily that surprised. I am curious, I guess it's pointless to do multiple days at this point. I am curious, though, if it will maintain this or if it will, fall back down. My inkling is that it will fall back down some, but it will probably still be, overvalued. I think that, there are no market fundamentals anymore. Nobody cares about actual like future profitability or anything along those lines. They straight up just, they believe that they believe that number will go up, and so therefore they invest in it. It's really, I think, relatively similar to crypto or NFTs or whatever, right? Where there's not really that much of an underlying asset. At least with this, there is an actual company that is doing things. So there is like a actual, underlying asset to some extent. But I think that it's going to be overvalued significantly, just like, Tesla or various other tech stocks are.
9:30 this morning in support of Musk and SpaceX, and a lot of people were actually tourists who just happened to stop by and see the crowds, and they obviously know who Elon Musk is, and so they were interested in this. But the NASDAQ even reportedly took unusual steps to prepare for today. I mean, according to the Wall Street Journal, they held mock openings just to make sure things went smoothly today. And look, the stock price, as I said, has gone up, which has officially made Musk a trillionaire. And we spoke to some of those people this morning about that. Take a listen. He's going to become the world's first trillionaire, probably. I mean, is any concern about that or no?
I think it is probably interesting that we are, like, I didn't expect to see that so early in my lifetime. But yeah, I don't know if I have commentary on whether or not that's like morally good, but it's not.
It's not morally good. It is immoral and it's unsustainable. As people's lives get worse, God, Americans are so fucking brain broken that they believe that one day they will be that trillionaire or whatever. Still, somehow they still do. A lot of people are starting to wake up to some extent, but until as these contradictions get worse and worse, as there's more people on the street, more people who are homeless, more people being bankrupted by medical debt, more people unable to afford any sort of real livelihood or whatever, right? As this continues, the contradictions are going to worsen until it reaches a boiling point, at which point we need a way, we need somebody to just come in and seize all these people's wealth. That's what I want. I want a Bernie or whoever style Democrat to come. It would have to be a Democrat. No Republicans are going to do what I'm about to say, but to day one come in and be like, we are seizing all wealth over $1 billion from everybody. Day one, it is officially the American government's. There's nothing you can do about it. We are taking it. We are seizing it. Day two, we are going to punish all of these people for being traitors against the American people. Whatever punishment they deem fit, whatever punishment that will be it, being locked up forever, being, state execution, whatever, I don't really care. However, day two, they all get, thrown in jail at the very least. And then we can maybe start the process of healing. And then, day three, we start using all of that money, hopefully, to improve people's lives. And I think that, it would obviously that would have ramifications. I'm not going to say that it wouldn't have ramifications in terms of international relations, international politics, but these people need to be punished. So I say go for it. We're America. We got the strongest military in the world. If people get upset by it, if the international capitalists get upset by it, then, so be it. I don't think they can do anything about it.
It's surprising that it's him, I guess, of people it was going to happen to.
He did all by himself, no? If you're jealous because...
Also, America is, America is currently the holder of all of this wealth, all of this money, everybody's international money as well. So we have ungodly amounts of leverage against a lot of these people too. So if they, if the international capitalists get angry at us for doing so, we have options for that too.
Somebody successful, you should try to work as well. As hard.
I think there is no one else doing it like Elon Musk.
Sorry, I gotta hear this again.
It's not surprising that it's him, I guess, of people it was going to happen to.
He did all by himself, no?
No, he didn't. Shut the fuck up.
Because
he was born into immense wealth. What are you talking about? He did not do it all by himself. He bought Tesla from somebody else and just is an owner. He's never done anything. He has never developed anything. He is not an engineer. He has never developed fucking anything. He is he is straight up just a capital owner. He is no different than the owners of I don't know, Warren Buffett or whatever, right? That's all he is. He's just a capital owner. He has never done fucking anything for these companies.
Successful, you should try to work as well. as hard?
I think
nobody works hard enough to be $1 billion. Like teachers work harder than Elon Musk. Like what are we saying? The average teacher, the average nurse, the average fucking Uber driver works harder than Elon Musk. They are not paid $1 trillion for that. They are not paid $1 billion for that. They barely scrape by for working harder than Elon Musk. Like what are they talking about?
No one else doing it like Elon Musk, and if I can be invested in Elon, then I'm here for it, and I'm going to invest in Elon.
Fucking crypto bros, dude.
Now, this was a long time coming for Musk. He said for the last 10 years, people have encouraged him to take SpaceX public. Now is finally the right time, he said, because of all the investments that are on the horizon for his company, including more satellites in space, data centers in space. He said he needs all the capital he can get. Alex?
I got to say, walking to work, it was pretty cool. I was walking by those huge jumbotrons and all those people. I have pictures of Starlink, of SpaceX, of X posted. So it's an exciting time. That said, Sarah, Bloomberg looked at some of the things that Musk could do with all this new money. And the examples include fund 68 U.S. election cycles or buy every car maker in the U.S., Europe, and Japan. I mean, how much power does this give him in the U.S. and worldwide after everything we saw him do during the early days of the Trump administration?
This IPO was really a referendum on Musk himself and how much you believe in him and his ability to build something out of hope, out of an idea. And while he's done it before, the stakes here are so much higher. This is an IPO this is a company that is already so integrated with the U.S. economy, with the U.S. government. This is the only way really that U.S. astronauts get to space. This is a company that is turning into not just a space company, but an AI company and a whole.
Yeah, that's another problem, obviously, is that the government is going to feel forced and obligated to prop up this company. So, like, I don't know, it similar to a lot of our other tech stocks and stuff. Like, if there's ever a crash and these companies have to, get brought back down to reality, like to their real, actual, fundamental value or whatever, the government's probably going to step in and prop them up, which is only sustainable for so long. It's like we keep doing all these like band-aids on band-aids on band-aids on band-aids. Eventually it all just collapses if that's how you fix your problem. Same with like the financial collapse in 2008 due to like the mortgages and stuff. We just bailed the banks out, right? We just bailed them out, another band-aid, as opposed to making them be punished for punishing them for their crimes, right? The government just bailed them out, and that was that. And then so we put that Band-Aid on, and then we just keep doing that over and over and over again. And like I always say, it works until it doesn't. One day it will stop working, and all of this will come tumbling down, I believe.
A whole lot in the prospectus is about that possibility, and Musk has 84% of the voting control. He cannot really be challenged in this role.
But what is it about Musk that investors feel confident about when his company SpaceX actually has a track record of losing billions of dollars? And explain how viewers may not be aware they could be shareholders in SpaceX via their retirement funds.
It is so integrated into the market because of how big it is. Even if you are not a shareholder in SpaceX, we have SpaceX entanglements with Google, with NVIDIA, with Anthropic, with all of these other companies that are a large part of our economy, and certainly with the U.S. government. So, yeah, whether you like it or not, you are invested in this company now, probably in some way. And Elon Musk, is painting this vision of the future. You're right; they have upwards of $4 billion a quarter that they lose. This is not a profitable.
Yeah, here's the problem is that they only believe in it. They don't believe in it even because of Elon Musk, right? I think nobody except for dumbass crypto bros or whatever actually believes that Elon Musk is particularly talented, okay? Nobody who has a brain, I think 90% of these investors don't believe that that Elon Musk is particularly talented when it comes to building a business or something, right? Or that like this will actually become profitable. But I think that they do believe that the brand of Elon Musk is something that like has become something that's too big to fail, and so that it's always a good investment because it will never fail because that's just like how it is or whatever. Like it's like I don't know. They are more invested in just this like idea that they have all collectively agreed upon that nothing Elon Musk touches will ever be a failure or whatever. And so far, they've been proven relatively right. But it's not because he's talented. It's not because his businesses do well. It's strictly just because people just keep investing. Like investors believe that other people are going to invest, and so they invest. It's it's like circular.
Company, they have not really, this is why they needed to go public, because they need all of this money to fund their AI ambitions. And if you look at what they say their total addressable market is, I have the number here, they say it's upwards of 28.5 trillion. That is an unfathomable number, and most of that is the idea that they can sell AI to businesses, but that is it is very early business for SpaceX through their XAI acquisition. They really haven't proven that out, and it's very competitive with two other major companies that we'll see go to market in the next couple of years.
Yeah, among them Anthropic, that's for sure. Okay, Sarah and Will, thank you both so much.
God. We're straight up turning into like the dystopian society from Alien. Like that's what it feels like. Except we're never going to actually get any sort of space travel. It's never going to happen, man. I personally, I believe it's impossible. It's impossible to do any sort of expansion beyond Earth under capitalist organization of society. I think that the only way to do it would be to advance past the point of capitalism, but that might be a while. So let's go ahead and read this real quick. It's kind of related. So we just kind of were watching a video about Elon Musk and the SpaceX IPO. And so this is another one from 2025, from Pew Research Center. Economic inequality seen as major challenge around the world. Most say rich people's political influence is a big contributing factor. I think this is also accelerating as well in the modern era. But a new Pew Research Center survey of 36 nations finds widespread public concern about economic inequality. And when asked what leads to this inequality, most people across the country surveyed point to the intersection of wealth and politics. Median percent who say the gap between the rich and the poor is a blank in their country. Very big problem is 54%. Moderately big problem is 30%. So that's 84% of the public, by the way. That was in 2025. I bet those numbers are way higher now. And most say political influence of the rich is a major cause. Median percent who say rich people having too much political influence leads to economic inequality, blank in their country. A great deal, 60%, a fair amount, 26%. Again, that's 86% of people think it's a problem, with 60% thinking it's a huge problem. Let's see. The survey conducted in spring 2024 also finds deep global anxieties about the economic future and strong desire for economic reform. A median of 57% of adults across the nations polled expect children in their country to be worse off financially than their parents when they grow up. The view is particularly widespread in several high-income nations, including Australia, Canada, France, Italy, Japan, Spain, the UK, and the US. Spain... let me see. Okay. Gotcha. I was like, I think these are all, heavily capitalist countries. I think generally it comes down to how advanced, like how advanced into the project of capitalism your society is, honestly, if I had to guess. like the further along in that process, generally speaking, I think the worse you're gonna like or think about it. Globally, most think children will be worse off financially than their parents. Yeah, there's all of those numbers. I'm not going to read this whole thing just because I just want to look at the graphs. In most countries surveyed, majority say economic system needs major changes or complete reform. This time, minor changes on the left, complete reform is in the middle. That's weird. And oh, it's a part. I guess it's being a part of the major changes. I would have put it on the end, I feel like, but okay. So in America, you got 20% think complete reform, 46% major changes. But yeah, I'm curious how this has changed over time as well. Political influence of the rich seen as top contributor to economic inequality. Rich people have too much political influence. Okay, so rich people have too much political influence. Not too much, not at all is 12%. A great deal is 60%. A fair amount is 26%. Problem with our education system. I just talked about Bill Gates the other day and how he's like single-handedly basically destroyed American public education. So 19% say not too much, 48% say a great deal, 33% say a fair amount. That some people work harder than others. 23% say not too much, 40% a great deal, 33% a fair amount. That some people are born with more opportunities than others. Each of the following leads to median percent who say each of the following leads to economic equality. So these are people who say that these things lead to economic inequality. So 23, 39, 36. Robots and computers doing work previously done by humans. 34 say not too much, not at all. 31%. That's kind of the lower, one of the lower ones, I guess. Discrimination against racial or ethnic minorities leads to each of the following leads to economic inequality. Discrimination against racial or ethnic minorities. 33% say not that much. 30% say a great deal, and 34% say a fair amount. Let's see. Gap between rich and poor is among several forms of inequality seen as problematic across 36 countries. Okay, small problem, not at all, 16%. Very big problem, 54. So these are just people's like opinions on it, I guess. But it is, I think, good to know. Oh, let's look at this ideological one. People on the ideological left more likely than those on the right to see economic inequality as a problem. Yeah, no shit. You didn't need that to tell you. I could have told you that. Let's see. Left is at 76%. Right is at 30%. Yeah, that's because the right are cattle, man. They're cows. They just like follow. They follow whatever fucking person with wealth is right in front of them. They just like see somebody with wealth and they're like, I must follow. I am a follower. I must follow. Like that's just the general nature of the at least of the American conservative, but probably of most conservatives, is they need somebody to like follow behind because they are, definitionally just kind of like, I don't know, just kind of cattle, man. They will consistently vote to destroy their own economic upward mobility, because a rich person, a rich person has told them, like Elon Musk has told them that that's the problem, right? So, but anyway, yeah, it's pretty consistent across the board, and that's a pretty obvious thing that the left understands this issue a lot better than the right. And this last one is how people in middle and high income nations view economic inequality. The gap between the rich and the poor, median percent of who say blank is a very big problem in their country. The gap between the rich and the poor, 62% and 48%. So 62% of middle income, 48% of high income. So even high income people are starting to say it's a problem. Medium percent who say blank leads to economic inequality a great deal in their country. Rich people have too much political influence. 63% say of middle income and 53% of high income. Medium percent who say when children in their country grow up, they will be better off financially than their parents. 44% middle income, 26% 26% high income. So there you go. There's some stats on what the people of the world think about wealth inequality. Hopefully that adds a little bit of context to the New York Times. And also remember that Twitter is not real life. I also can't stress that enough. How people react and talk on Twitter is completely irrelevant to the real world. Anyway, let's look at some of these tweets regarding SpaceX. We'll see what people are responding to. Kelly Holmes says Elon Musk owes a huge part of his fortune to Obama and Biden. His businesses were on the brink of collapse multiple times, so he turned to the government for help. His companies have received nearly $38 billion in taxpayer-backed contracts, loans, subsidies, and incentives, and it was our hard-earned dollars that helped save and grow Tesla and SpaceX. Yeah, you can also extract this to every company, right? They always privatize the gains. They always socialize the losses. Anytime there is an issue, the government will come in and bail out these companies. We'll give them free handouts. We'll give them subsidies. We'll give them whatever they need to continue funneling all of our tax dollars into the hands of these pedo billionaires. And then anytime there's a problem, they will socialize the losses. So there you go. But they get to keep all of their money. They get to keep all of their profits, even though they do that, which is stupid. This person says tax the shit out of him before capitalism collapses on itself. It's probably going to happen regardless, but we can try to save it if you want. It's nearly impossible to comprehend how rigged and corrupt the system is for one person to accumulate this kind of wealth. See, even the people on Twitter are not having any of it. Yes, the planet got destroyed, but for a beautiful moment in time, we create a lot of value for shareholders. That's a funny one. Okay, well, there you go. I guess it seems like most of the comments on this, even on the hellscape that is Twitter, seem to believe that this is a bad thing. So that's good. Okay, well, that's the show, everybody. That is I'm trying something a little bit new this time. I didn't go through as many different stories. I tried to stick to one and maybe dive a little bit deeper on some of them. I tried also to give context and look things up and do things just a little bit differently today. So I hope you enjoyed it. I also, though, I feel a little bit bad because I didn't get to any like fun stuff or anything really. So I might have to think a little bit more about how long I want to spend on each of these segments in the future. It's still a work in progress. So, I'm new to this. I'm doing my best out here, and, give me some, charitability, I guess. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. If you're watching the VOD, love you too. This has been Technically Clay, and the stream is technically over. Bye-bye.